Listen, everybody talking about no contact, block his number, delete the picture, stay off his page. And yeah, that's part of the process. But here's the truth. No contact is not enough. Because silence without growth is just space. And space without transformation is just distance. If you really want him to feel it, if you really want to shift the energy, there's more to it than just cutting communication. I'm gonna break down 5 moves that turn your pain into power, your silence into strength, and your absence into something unforgettable. Let's get into it. Listen, I hear a lot of people talk about this thing called no contact. Block him. Don't answer the call. Stay off his social media. Cut communication. And sure, that step matters. It gives you distance. It gives you space. But let me be real with you. No contact by itself is not enough. Silence alone won't heal you. Silence alone won't build you. And silence alone sure won't make him feel the weight of losing you. Because space without transformation is just emptiness. And emptiness gets forgotten. If you really want him to feel it, if you really want to shift the energy, it's not just about cutting him off. It's about who you become when he's no longer in the picture. You see, when somebody leaves your life, they leave a gap. But a gap ain't powerful unless you fill it with something greater. Think about it. When somebody leaves a job and they just vanish, nobody talks about them again. But when somebody walks away and 2 years later you see them owning their own company, sitting in a position of power, living a lifestyle that looks 10 levels up, suddenly you can't forget them. That's the type of energy you got to tap into. That's how you rebuild your presence. You don't just disappear into loneliness, hiding, waiting for time to pass. You show up different. You hit the gym, you sharpen your mind, you upgrade your style, you get on your purpose, you make sure the next version of you looks like an evolution nobody saw coming. Because here's the truth. Pain is fuel if you use it right. Too many people waste it. They sit still, scrolling on their phones, hoping the silence does the work for them. But silence without self-work is like planting a seed and never watering it. Nothing grows. You have to put in the grind. Every single day you have to pour into yourself. If you said you didn't have time before, now you do. That time you spent arguing, worrying, chasing, redirect that into the gym, into books, into classes, into building your craft. The glow up isn't just about looking good. It's about moving like somebody who found their power again. And let's be clear, this isn't about faking progress just to show them. This is about real transformation. When you change for you, the energy hits different. People can feel it. When you walk in a room after leveling up, you don't even have to say a word. The vibe speaks for you. That's why this process is so much bigger than no contact. It's not just about cutting them off. It's about turning the spotlight back onto you. I'll give you a story. I knew a woman who went through a breakup that nearly broke her down. She stopped eating right, stopped working on her goals, spent nights crying, but then she made a decision. She started hitting the gym every morning, even when she didn't feel like it. She signed up for a certification course that she'd been putting off for years. She changed her routine, invested in her appearance, and little by little, she rebuilt her present. Fast forward a year, she's in the best shape of her life, earning more money than ever, walking in rooms with a confidence that turns heads. And guess who hit her phone again? That man she thought she lost. Because when you rebuild your presence, when you transform absence into undeniable growth, people can't help but feel it. Now think about yourself for a second. Imagine a version of you 6 months from now if you stop pouring energy into somebody who ain't even around anymore and instead poured it into you. Imagine walking in somewhere and people not even recognizing you, not because you became a stranger, but because you became so much greater than the last version they remember. That's power. That's the type of progress that makes silence deafening. And let me remind you, presence isn't just physical, it's mental, it's spiritual. When you rebuild your presence, you're not only changing the way you look, you're changing the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you think. A person can feel that energy even through a picture, even through a memory. That's when no contact becomes more than just silence. It becomes a statement. I need you to understand that this is the difference between being forgotten and being unforgettable. If you just vanish, time erases you. But if you rise, if you evolve, if you glow up in ways nobody expected, then every time your name crosses his mind, he feels it. Not because you're begging for attention, but because your growth makes noise. And growth always echoes louder than words. So when you're sitting there thinking, will he miss me? Will he regret it? Shift that question. Ask yourself, what will I build in this space? What version of me will walk out of this season? Because if you play this right, the answer isn't just that he'll feel it. The answer is that you'll feel it too. You'll look in the mirror and respect the person you see. You'll walk in your purpose and realize that his absence was the best thing that ever happened for your evolution. This is why no contact by itself will never be enough. Silence is empty. Transformation is powerful. Your job isn't just to block him, it's to build you. Rebuild your presence. Make yourself undeniable, because the truth is, the real revenge, the real healing, the real shift is not in what he sees. It's in who you become. When you're broken, your energy shows it. You can try to hide it. You can try to mask it with makeup, clothes, or smiles. But the truth is, your vibe never lies. People feel that. Even in silence, pain has a way of screaming out. And if you think blocking his number or staying off social media is enough, but every time you step outside, your spirit is heavy, your eyes are tired, your words are sharp with anger, then you haven't truly moved. What he should feel is not your hurt, it's your peace. Because nothing stings harder than realizing the person you thought you broke is shining like they were never touched. See, energy is everything. You walk in a room and before you speak, before anybody knows your story, they feel you. They can tell if you're carrying baggage or if you're carrying peace. And when it comes to a breakup, when it comes to someone who thought they had power over you, your biggest weapon isn't silence. It's the glow that comes when you master your energy. Because that glow is undeniable. It's not fake, it's not forced, it's not for show. It's who you are when you take control of your emotions and stop letting pain dictate your path. I've seen too many people lose years of their lives letting heartbreak control them. They think avoiding calls is healing, but inside they're replaying the same arguments, the same moments, over and over, and that becomes their identity. But here's the thing, you can't rewrite the past and you can't control him. The only thing you can control is the energy you bring into every single day. And that choice is what separates the ones who stay stuck from the ones who level up. So how do you master your energy? You ground yourself. You create habits that pull you back to center. Some people meditate, some people pray, some people journal. Some sit down with mentors, therapists, or close friends who won't just tell them what they want to hear, but will challenge them to grow. It doesn't matter what method you choose. What matters is that you commit to it. Because your emotions are like wild horses. If you let them run free, they'll drag you into chaos. But if you train them, if you learn to ride them, they'll carry you to places you never thought you could reach. Think about it. When you're angry, when you're bitter, when you consume with proving a point, all of that shows in your body language, it shows in your tone, and that anger is still a chain tying you to him. But when you shift and choose peace, when you decide to stop reacting and start creating, you cut that chain for good. Because peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It takes strength to not clap back. It takes strength to not stalk his page. It takes strength to sit with your emotions, face them, and turn them into wisdom instead of weapons. And that's the kind of strength that makes people look at you and say, wow, she's different now. I knew a man once who went through a brutal breakup. He was angry, hurt, and every day you could see it in his face. He'd tell everybody his story, vent to whoever would listen, and his energy drained every room he walked into. Then one day he made a decision. He was done carrying the weight. He started running every morning, listening to audiobooks, journaling at night. He stopped telling the story of how he was hurt and started telling the story of where he was going. And slowly people noticed. His whole vibe shifted. He wasn't just the guy who got left. He became the guy who's building something new. And when his ex saw him again, she didn't feel his pain, she felt his peace. That's what shook her, not his silence, his peace. That's the point I want you to understand. When someone looks back at you, when they think about you, the energy they remember matters more than the words you spoke. If all they remember is anger and chaos, then they feel justified in leaving. But if what they see is someone glowing, grounded, thriving, that's when the loss hits them, because peace is rare. In a world full of people chasing validation, chasing arguments, chasing attention, being someone who radiates calm and control is unforgettable. And let me say this, it's not about pretending you're not hurt. It's about refusing to let the hurt own you. Yes, you're gonna cry some nights. Yes, you're gonna feel that pain in your chest. That's natural. But instead of drowning in it, you channel it. You put it into the gym. You put it into your work, you put it into your prayers, you put it into your journal. You take all that emotion and you recycle it into energy that builds you instead of breaks you. Mastery. That's how you turn heartbreak into breakthrough. The craziest part is, once you master your energy, it's not even about him anymore. You start attracting better opportunities, better people, better experiences, because the universe responds to your frequency. When you're stuck in pain, you attract more pain. When you elevate your vibe, you attract blessings that match that elevation. And the irony is, that's exactly when he feels it the most. When you don't even care if he sees it, because the glow is so real, so natural, that it speaks louder than any revenge ever could. So if you're serious about making them feel it, stop thinking about silence like it's the final move. Silence is just a space. Energy is your substance. Master your energy. Walk in peace. Live in peace. Let your calm be louder than your anger. Let your growth be louder than your pain. Because nothing hits harder than realizing the person you thought you broke is not just surviving, but thriving. When heartbreak hits, the first instinct for most people is isolation. They shut the blinds, turn off their phone, cut off friends, and just sit with the pain. And I get it. When you're hurting, the world feels too loud. But let me be real with you. Isolation keeps you stuck. Healing doesn't happen in the dark by yourself replaying the same memories. Healing happens when you put yourself in motion, when you get in new environments, meet new people, and build connections that remind you life is bigger than the one person who loved. Don't just sit at home waiting for time to pass. Put yourself in new rooms, create new energy, because it's not about replacing him, it's about expanding you. See, energy multiplies in community. Studies show that strong social ties don't just make you feel better emotionally, they literally rewire your brain, lower stress, and even extend your life expectancy. People with real networks bounce back faster from heartbreak because they have more sources of love, support, and accountability. When you cut yourself off from others, you're depending on willpower alone to heal. But when you expand your network, you tap into something greater. You get fed by new perspectives, new stories, new opportunities, and that's how you shift your focus from what you lost to what you're building. Think about it like this. If you're sitting at home scrolling, lonely, stuck in your head, all your energy stays trapped in that cycle. But if you walk into a networking event, a new gym, a creative workshop, or even just a dinner with friends of friends, suddenly your energy is moving. You're laughing again, you're learning again. You're reminded that life is still happening and there are people out there who want to connect with you. That's powerful. That's healing. And let's be honest. Imagine your ex running into you, not alone, not bitter, but surrounded by new people, new opportunities, and momentum that screams, I'm growing. That's when the loss really hits him, because you didn't just survive, you elevated. I remember talking to a woman who went through a breakup that left her shattered. At first, she stayed home, binge watching shows, turning down invites. But months went by and she realized nothing was changing. So she joined a local entrepreneur group. She didn't know anyone, but she showed up, and from that group, she not only made new friends, she found a mentor who helped her start her own business. Fast forward a year later, she wasn't just healed, she was thriving. She had a new circle, new opportunities, and a new sense of self-worth. And the wildest part, she ran into her ex at a social event. He saw her laughing, confident, surrounded by her new network, and it hit him instantly. She wasn't the same woman he left behind. That's the power of expanding your network. And let me say this, expanding your network isn't just about building numbers, it's about building quality. Surround yourself with people who feed your vision, not your pain. People who challenge you, uplift you, and push you to go further. If you're only around people who let you complain all day about him, you're not really moving forward. You're just circling the same wound. But if you're around people who remind you of your potential, who introduce you to new opportunities, who see greatness in you even when you don't see it yourself, that's when your network becomes your net worth. That's when you level up. It's important too that you diversify the spaces you step into. Don't just stick to the same circle you've always known. Go to workshops, conferences, community events, volunteer spaces. Travel if you can. Every new environment adds another layer to who you are. And the more you expand, the more your identity shifts. You stop being defined by the one who got left and start being known as the one who's everywhere. The one who's building, the one who's moving. That reputation changes the way the world interacts with you, and it changes the way you see yourself. And there's another layer to this. Expanding your network also rebuilds your confidence in relationships. After heartbreak, it's easy to believe the lie that you're not enough, that maybe nobody else will connect with you the same way. But when you put yourself out there, when you meet new people who value your energy, who enjoy your company, who see your worth, it reminds you that the end of one relationship isn't the end of love, respect, or connection. It proves to you that you're not hard to love, you just needed the right environment. I want you to picture this 6 months from now. Instead of sitting alone scrolling through his pictures, you walking into a brunch with 5 new friends you met through a professional group. You're talking about ideas, plans, opportunities. Your phone buzzing not with texts from him, but with invites, collaborations, and people who genuinely want to see you win. That's expansion. That's momentum. And when he sees that, when he realizes you're not sitting still waiting on him, but you're out in the world moving, connecting, growing, he'll feel that. Because movement exposes the truth. You didn't need him to keep evolving. And this isn't about revenge, it's about freedom. Expanding your network is about proving to yourself that you're capable of building a life bigger than your pain. It's about realizing that the people you haven't met yet might be the ones who change everything for you. Your next best friend, your next mentor, your next opportunity. They're out there waiting for you to show up. But they'll never find you if you're stuck in your room replaying the past. So step out, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you don't feel ready. Go to that event alone. Sign up for that class. Accept that invite. Put yourself in new rooms, because every time you expand your network, you expand your future. And the beauty of it is, when you grow like that, when you surround yourself with new people and fresh energy, you don't just heal, you transform. And when you transform, that's when he feels the loss. Not because you're trying to make him feel it, but because your life is proof you didn't stop moving. And nothing is louder than momentum. Here's the truth. People respect results. Words don't move people like progress does. You can say, I'm doing better 1,000 times, but if nothing in your life has shifted, those words fall flat. Silence has power, yes, but progress has proof. And proof hits different. When you start stacking wins, when you start collecting milestones, when your life starts showing undeniable growth, you don't even have to say a thing. Your results speak louder than any message you could have sent. That's how you shift the energy. That's how you make somebody realize what they lost. See, pain is heavy, but it's also fuel. You can waste it or you can use it to build. Some of the greatest businesses, the most powerful art, the strongest bodies, the deepest wisdom, it all came from people who took their pain and turned it into progress. And you can do the same. That heartbreak that had you on your knees, that energy can be redirected. Start that business you kept putting off. Enroll in that class you said you didn't have time for. Pay off that debt that's been hanging over your head. Drop that weight. Write that book. Stack that money. Build that skill. Every step forward is not just healing, it's a declaration that says, I will not stay where I was left. I knew a woman who came out of a toxic relationship with nothing. Her self-esteem was low, her finances were drained, her vision was cloudy, but instead of staying stuck, she decided to bet on herself. She picked up an extra job, started saving aggressively, and invested in her education. A year later, she bought her first house. Think about that. A year earlier, she was broken and doubting herself, but 12 months of focused progress changed her whole life. And guess who found his way back to her phone? The same man who once overlooked her. Why? Because success echoes louder than silence. Because tangible progress demands respect, even from the people who thought you couldn't rise. And this isn't about proving something to him, it's about proving it to yourself. When you accomplish something that once felt impossible, you rebuild the trust you lost with yourself during that relationship. Because heartbreak has a way of making you doubt everything, your worth, your ability, your future. Progress reminds you that you are capable, that you can set goals and crush them, that you have power, and that confidence doesn't just help you heal, it changes the way you move in every area of life. Imagine telling yourself you're going to lose 20 pounds and then you actually do it. Imagine saying you're going to pay off that credit card and then you make that final payment. Imagine dreaming of starting that business and then launching it, clients in hand. Each of those wins builds momentum. Each win is like stacking bricks, and before you know it, you built something solid, something undeniable, something nobody can take away. That's tangible progress. It's easy to tell people I'm working on myself, but it's different when they can see the difference. They see the glow in your face from taking care of your health. They see the new car in your driveway because you fixed your credit. They see the degree on your wall, the book with your name on the cover, the business you launched. These aren't just flexes. These are testaments, proof that you took your pain and built a platform out of it. I'll never forget watching a man in my circle go through a breakup that crushed him. He could have drowned in that pain, but instead, he put his head down and started grinding. He worked double shifts. He studied financial literacy. He built his side hustle. Within 2 years, he owned property. The same people who once looked down on him now ask him for advice. That's what progress does. It flips the script. It rewrites the story. It takes you from being overlooked to being undeniable. And you know what else? Tangible progress creates distance, not just physical distance, but emotional distance. Because when you're focused on building, you don't even have time to sit around wondering what he's doing. You're too busy moving forward. That's when healing accelerates. When your goals get bigger than your grief. When your future starts speaking louder than your past. That's why it's so powerful. Now, don't get it twisted. Progress doesn't mean you have to make $1 million overnight or buy a mansion tomorrow. Progress is personal. It's about moving from where you are to where you want to be. For some people, that might mean starting therapy. For others, it might mean going back to school. For somebody else, it's launching a side hustle or running their first marathon or finally finishing a project they've been sitting on. The point is, progress is measurable. It's real. It's something you can look at and say, I did that. And here's the thing. Every milestone becomes a brick in your foundation. When you're heartbroken, it feels like the ground is going under your feet. But every goal you accomplish, every progress you make, it lays a new stone. One by one, you're rebuilding solid ground. And when you stand on that ground, you stand taller, you stand stronger, and you don't need anybody to validate it because the proof is in your results. Picture this. You run into your ex after 6 months. He remembers you as the person who was broken, crying, calling, begging. But now, you're 30 pounds lighter, your business is off the ground, your energy is different, your smile is brighter. You didn't just survive, you thrived. And that hits different. Not because you were trying to make him feel it, but because your progress is undeniable. That's when silence becomes deafening. Because nothing says I moved on louder than success. So don't just say you better be better. Don't just wait for healing. Build healing. Every dollar saved, every class finished, every project completed is a statement. A statement louder than any text you could have sent. That's how you turn pain into power. That's how you make your absence unforgettable. And most importantly, that's how you respect yourself enough to never go backward. This is the final move, and it might be the most important one. Everything you do from here on out, don't do it for him to see, do it for you. Because the second you make your progress about his reaction, you've handed him control again. You're still orbiting around him, still measuring yourself by whether or not he notices. That's not freedom, that's still a chain. Real power is when you shift all that energy inward and upward. When you start moving in alignment with who you're supposed to be, regardless of whether his eyes are on you or not. That's the difference between trying to get even and truly getting free. See, validation is a trap. Social media got people conditioned to seek likes, comments, eyes on them. And heartbreak can amplify that. You start posting just to prove you're okay, showing off just to send a message. But let's be real. If your wins are only valuable when he sees them, are they really wins? Or are they just staged performances in hopes of pulling him back into your orbit? That's not what this is about. This is about living out loud in a way that feeds your spirit, your vision, your higher self. When you do it for you, the glow becomes authentic. It's not for show. It's who you are now. And here's the paradox that most people miss. When you stop caring whether he sees it, that's exactly when he feels it the most. Because your energy shifts. You're not moving like somebody stuck in his shadow. You're not orbiting him anymore. Suddenly, he's orbiting you. He's the one checking your page, asking mutual friends, replaying memories, because he can feel the difference. He can feel that you no longer need his eyes to validate your shine. And that's the deepest cut. I'll give you an example. I knew a guy who went through a rough split. For months, every post he made was directed at his ex quotes, gym selfies, flashy purchases. It looked like progress, but it wasn't. He wasn't free, he was performing. And the truth is, she didn't even care because she could feel it was still about her. Then he disappeared from that act and started living for real. He traveled, not to post about it, but because he wanted to see the world. He built his business, not to flex, but to build stability. He started pouring into his family, his community, himself. Months later, his ex saw him at an event and the glow was different. It wasn't look at me proving you wrong. It was look at me fulfilling my purpose. That's what shook her. Because the energy was no longer tied to her, it was bigger. Living out loud doesn't mean broadcasting every move online. It means fully showing up in your own life. Taking up space in the rooms you once thought you didn't belong in, speaking your truth, laughing loudly, wearing what you want, pursuing the passions you used to put on hold. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to make anyone else comfortable. When you stop living in the shadow of someone else's approval, you begin to attract experiences and people who match your authentic vibration. That's where real abundance starts. And let's be clear, it takes discipline to break free from the need for validation. We've all been conditioned to want somebody to say, I see you. Especially after heartbreak, that desire for acknowledgement is strong. But every time you resist the urge to do something just to get his attention, you're reclaiming your power. You're telling yourself, I don't need outside confirmation to know I'm moving right. That mindset is liberating. It means your joy, your peace, your wins aren't dependent on whether or not he notices. They're yours, fully yours. Imagine this, you start a fitness journey. If the only reason you're posting progress pics is so he sees them, you'll lose steam once he stops watching. But if you're doing it because you want to feel strong, because you love the discipline, because it makes you proud when you look in the mirror, then nobody can take that from you. Same with building a business, traveling, going back to school. When your why is bigger than him, your growth becomes unstoppable. And ironically, that's the energy that makes people take notice. When you're not chasing validation, your presence becomes magnetic because authenticity is rare. In a world where everyone is performant, the person who's genuinely living, genuinely glowing, genuinely free, that person stands out without even trying. That's the paradox. The less you try to make him feel it, the more he feels it. The less you post for attention, the more people pay attention because energy is real and authenticity can't be faked. I think about a woman I know who used to measure everything by whether her ex would approve. She dressed for him, ate for him, even chose jobs based on his opinions. When he left, she was lost. But instead of chasing his attention, she started figuring out who she really was. She dyed her hair the color she always wanted but never felt free to do. She signed up for salsa classes because she loved to dance. She went back to school for a career she'd been told was unrealistic, and little by little she found herself again. Not the version of herself he curated, but the version she always wanted to be. And now she radiates. People stop her in the street to compliment her energy. That's living out loud. That's freedom. And when her ex did eventually see her again, the look on his face said it all. She was no longer his, not just physically, but spiritually. She belonged fully to herself. That's the kind of transformation I want for you. Because when you live out loud for you, you stop needing anyone else to fill your cup. You create your own joy, your own rhythm, your own fulfillment. And ironically, that's when you start attracting people who are on that same wavelength. People who don't just notice your glow. They respect it. They match it. They add to it. You know, that's when you step into relationships, friendships, and opportunities that reflect the best version of you, not the broken version. So understand this, living out loud is not about proving anything. It's about embodying everything. Every goal, every dream, every part of yourself you silenced before, you bring it to life. And you do it with the kind of confidence that doesn't ask for permission. That's when you're untouchable. That's when no breakup, no rejection, no silence can shake you. Because your foundation is built on your own authenticity, and nothing is stronger than that. When you stop caring if he sees it, that's when he feels it the most. Because your energy shifts from chasing to attracting, from proving to embodying. You're no longer stuck in his orbit, he's stuck watching yours. And you're free. Free to live, free to shine, free to be everything you were meant to be without anyone else's approval. That's the real win. So remember this. No contact is just the start. But if you really want to turn that pain into power, it's about what you build in the silence. Rebuild your presence, master your energy, expand your network, create tangible progress, live out loud. Do this, and I promise you won't just make him feel it, you'll make yourself feel it. And that's the win that can't be taken away.